We are the anchors of Queer News Tonight, and this evening we discuss the queer headlines. Breaking news as Rachel Maddow's investigation exposes historical far-right efforts to discredit universities, linking fascist ideology to current political figures like J.D. Vance.
56% of LGBTQ in the UK fear holding hands. Stonewall's new report highlights rising queer hate crimes in the UK, urging government action and protections for LGBTQ individuals.
Jessica Norton faced suspension in a lawsuit after supporting her trans daughter's participation in volleyball.
Robby Starbuck campaigns to end DEI programs, influencing big brands like Harley-Davidson, Toyota, and many others.
In 1982, the CDC named AIDS, which led to a huge debate around the stigma attached to the disease.
DeAngelis, an anti-LGBTQ+ advocate, admits past involvement in gay adult films. Good evening. Welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ+ daily evening television news, broadcasting live and available on demand on your favorite streaming channels. We are proud to announce that YouTube has recognized Queer News Tonight, certified by analytics company vidIQ, that we now have more than 9.5 million views. More than 500,000 of you have watched this show in the last 60 days. Thank you. It is Tuesday, October 1st, 2024. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we are going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ evening news shows. Whatever happens, unique in queer news, you'll see it and you'll hear it.
Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, is a nonprofit 501c3 media company in the same model of PBS and NPR, but designed for the queer community. Our mission is to support the 11 pillars of our LGBTQ community. We want to inform and educate the key issues of lesbian, trans, Latino, Black, healthcare, seniors, students, faith, social justice, business, and queer culture. Help us support our community.
We are a part of one of the largest LGBTQ nonprofit media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
In 2024, our magazine is celebrating 40 years of the LGBTQ experience in our television news. Talk and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the queer and broader community.
Let's meet tonight's anchors at Queer News Tonight. The round table tonight is stacked. Let's welcome Jeff Oliverio. He is a financial advisor and certified financial planner with Truist Wealth in Fort Lauderdale. Jeff is one of the founders and president of the Hollywood LGBTQ+ Council. He has served as co-chair for the National LGBTQ+ Task Force Gala since 2021. Welcome back, Jeff. It's always a pleasure to see you.
Happy to be here. Happy October.
Happy October 1st. Things are about to get spooky. Let's welcome Franchesca D'Amore. She is an advocate and holistic life coach. She is the founding president of Trans Ed. Her passion for supporting LGBTQ+ youth inspired her to found Trans Ed, which offers education solutions for transgender and non-binary young adults. Franchesca is the entertainment director for My Hollywood Pride and is an executive committee member of the Broward Regional HIV Planning Council. Franchesca Save LGBT is hosting the legendary annual Halloween Ball, a night of magic and mayhem on Saturday, October 26th at the R House in Wynwood. RuPaul's Drag Race fame Latrice Royale, one of my favorites, and glamorous Athena Dion will be hosting this event. Tell me what's happening.
Oh my God, I'm so excited about this event. I hope you all come. Save LGBTQ is the fiscal agent for Trans Ed, so I got to give a shout out to Save.
Shout out Save.
Save, woohoo. And actually, I went to one of the first ones in 1995. Save has been around for a while.
And you were only born in 90, so that's incredible how that works.
Fake ID and all. It was wonderful. So if you can make it go, Latrice is going to be one of the hosts as well as Athena Dion. And it's going to be a great evening for a great cause. So I hope you all show up and get spooky.
Ooh, looking forward to it. Let's welcome back anchor Rajee Narinesingh, a famous transgender activist, actress, author, mystic, and reality television personality. She is of multiracial descent and has appeared on more than 300 television shows. I'm not saying 35 across the globe. She's an activist for Trans Social. Rajee, Trans Social has launched a new medical program named Mayfair Medical. Tell me what's happening.
Well, today is the start of Mayfair Medical.
Congratulations.
And so we're really excited about it. We have locations here, 2 in Miami, 1 in Broward, and we have 1 in Atlanta. Wow. So we know there's a need, especially in Miami, for transgender affirming clinics. I mean, there are already some, but our community, we definitely can use more.
Absolutely.
So we're really excited. We already have about 400 patients on the waiting list.
Wow.
So we're hitting the ground running. And what did you say about me being stacked?
Yeah, well, and where can everyone listening and watching find out more information on Mayfair?
Sure.
Yeah.
You can go to transsocial.org/Mayfair Medical.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Awesome.
Thank
Again.
you.
That's major.
Congratulations.
Let's welcome Vance Biggs, a trailblazing advocate for health equity and HIV treatment. As community outreach coordinator at Holy Cross Health, he leads initiatives for the LGBTQ+ community and people living with HIV. His roles as vice chair of the RW Part A Planning Council and founding board member of TransEd underscore his dedication to inclusivity and systemic change. Known for his powerful public speaking, Vance tirelessly champions the rights of marginalized communities, making him a respected leader in health equity and social justice. Vance, the Active Aging Expo is on October 19th at the Pride Center. This is looking to be a fantastic event for our aging community. Oh, I'm slouching. Sorry to my producer. Tell me what's happening. Tell me what's happening.
Well, Holy Cross has been part of this event for several years now, which is quite incredible. And as we continue to learn, we're all getting older. We are aging, and especially those of the LGBTQ community and those living also with HIV. We're now at an age where over 50% of our people living with HIV are over the age of 50. So there's definitely a need for additional care for those people that have lived long term. And this event is great because it brings together so many community resources from all over Broward County, and they are already sold out of all their vendor booths and sponsorships.
Wow.
So it's going to be a packed event. So get there.
Yeah.
It's going to be October 19th and from 10 to 2.
Wow.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
At the Pride Center.
Yes, Pride Center.
Which is, I will just say this, which is incredible because the Active Aging, so at the gym right across from the Pride Center, Challenge Fitness, they offer active aging classes Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. That's if you want to go.
Wow.
I don't know if it's connected at all, but they do offer it.
All right. And of course, this is tonight's lead anchor, Eric Restivo. Eric is well known for DJing at some of the largest clubs in West Hollywood and has had residencies in LA, P-Town, NYC, or New York City, and now Wilton Manors. He is the television host of The W Boys, focusing on LGBTQ love for entertainment. Broadcast on Fridays and then on demand, Eric's Spooktacular, a night of beats, thrills, tricks, and chills. Oh, that's kind of interesting.
I was going to say.
Will be held on October 26th. You are hosting this event. Tell me what's happening.
Yes, that is tough. Beats, chills, thrills. Yes. It's another one of Matthew Darren's D-Rock Productions.
Oh my gosh.
Events,
Okay.
which
Awesome.
are always, the highest caliber. A bunch of local talented singers who you see weekly at different places all over the drive. It's at Hunter's. Doors are at 6 p.m. The show is at 7 p.m. I had the honor and pleasure of hosting with Faye Watt for his Pride Fantasia just last month. And now for this one, I'll be hosting just with him. So it's going to be a whole new take on a kind of Halloween cabaret interactive event at Hunters. But I don't think it conflicts with your event on the 26th. So people should be able to do both, by the way. We should be able to do both. Anyway, we are the reporters for Queer News Tonight. And this evening, we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ plus community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast. And here are the bullet points of the queer news for Tuesday, October 1st, 2024. First, let's queer up breaking news. Rachel Maddow documents how J.D. Vance wants to end government, universities, and businesses. Queer News Tonight has reported extensively on some very radical positions Senator J.D. Vance has discussed, especially as it relates to LGBTQ+ civil and cultural rights. Rachel Maddow last night laid out a blistering indictment showing that before Vance ran for office, he supported radical ideology on LGBTQ+ and other cultural war issues, including advocating an extreme solution. Vance said, quote, "Conservatives need to wake up, but what they need to wake up to is the fact that most of American life and culture should be ripped out like a tumor."
Our leaders right now are so corrupt and so vile that if you assimilate into their culture, you're assimilating into like garbage liberal elite culture. You're not assimilating into traditional American culture. And so this is a tough pickle for me. I don't even know what the right answer is here, because you can't just teach these things. You can't teach that we live in a great country if the leaders are actively aligned against it. So almost the thing that you need to do, step one in the process, is to totally replace, like rip out like a tumor, the current American leadership class, and then reinstall some sense of American, political religion.
That's right. You just heard Vance say, install American political religion. End quote. Vance said this on the far-right Jack Murphy Live podcast on September 17th, 2021, before he entered political life. During the interview, Murphy gets excited about Vance's views, but asks how to accomplish it. Vance explains the source of his thoughts and ideology.
You said something that I would like to zero down on. How do we effectively, quote, rip out the disgusting leadership class?
Oh, man.
Because let me expand on that just a second, because and I'm going to give you a little cover here, because it's not just, obviously elections, that's one thing. Okay. But unfortunately, this evil leadership class has already taken over all of our institutions. Current pipeline is to turn them into those people that we just called evil and disgusting. How do we, aside from elections, how do we rip out this leadership class? So these institutions are corrupted and rotted to the core. This elite ideology is everywhere and in all the things. What other options do we have besides voting them out, which we're seeing is ineffectual?
Yeah. So again, this is like a tough question, but this is maybe the question that confronts us right now. There's this guy, Curtis Yarvin, who's written about some of these things.
Project 2025, and now Curtis Yarvin. This radically right-wing activist have been characterized by ideology opponents as an advocate of anarchy. He has suggested that you seize and close universities, use the government to destroy business seated in woke ideology, and end the current government of the United States.
So I've reduced this very complicated problem to a simple four-letter acronym, which is RAGE. And RAGE stands for Retire All Government Employees. Very, very simple. Now, the problem with this is, why have you never heard this before? Why has no one ever suggested, let's just get rid of this thing? You have a government in Washington. You're either for it or against it. What is a government? A government is just a corporation which owns the country. Nothing more, nothing less. It so happens that our sovereign corporation is very poorly managed, and there's a very simple way to replace that, which is what we do to all corporations that have failed. We simply delete them. We haven't been able to do that with our government for 2 years, so it's gotten a little bit stale.
Quoting Yarvin, what is the government? It's just a corporation that runs the country. We should delete the U.S. government because it's stale, end quote. When Vance tries to answer Jack Murphy's question on ripping out the tumor in America, he suggests Curtis Yarvin has already considered the solution.
The other thing about getting rid of your government is you can't just say, well, the limits of the government are the limits of the formal government. You have to say, well, what is the system actually? And it includes a lot of things that are called NGOs, things that are called universities, things that are funded by the state. It's a very, very large system, and it all needs to be destroyed. Fortunately, there's a lot of talented Americans who actually know how to run things and make things work and are generalists. And you can just get these people, put them in a position of responsibility and have them do their thing. And finally, you need a CEO, and a national CEO is what's called a dictator. It's the same thing. There's no difference between a CEO and a dictator. If Americans want to change their government, they're going to have to get over their dictator phobia.
Vance radical ideology sources Yarvin. Yarvin says, quote, for the government, you need an actual CEO, and an actual CEO is called a dictator. It's the same thing. There is no difference between a CEO and a dictator. If Americans want to change their government, they are going to have to get over dictator phobia, end quote. Prior to 2022, Vance had no political experience. It appears on the American landscape only in the last couple of years. So where did he come from, and how did he get to this moment in just 2 years? The answer is money. His Ohio Senate election was largely supported in various ways from Silicon Valley tech billionaires, including the single largest Senate campaign donation in history from PayPal billionaire Peter Thiel, who ironically is a member of the LGBTQ+ community. This is why the Rachel Maddow discovery is so critical to a full understanding of not just who JD Vance is, but what his real ideology and goal is all about, especially as to how it affects the LGBTQ+ community. Vance and Murphy discuss what they called, quote, extra-constitutional actions that could be taken to remove the tumor to solve systemic progressive liberalism. As example, they discuss seizing Harvard's endowment fund as a way to correct the woke university. Vance suggests that if you must make it financially painful to bring rogue corporate thinking in line. Interestingly, this is exactly what conservative activist Robby Starbuck is accomplishing against the HRC and getting corporate America to bend to radically right issues over diversity, inclusion, and more. Maddow says she debated with herself on whether to connect the dots. I'm so happy she did. And report on where JD Vance created his ideology. Her analysis gives a glimpse of where he developed his blueprint and where he could take America as vice president and even as president. There is so much more detail in her micro-analysis of where JD Vance is really going and why. To have a better understanding, Queer News Tonight highly recommends you watch the full September 30th episode of The Rachel Maddow Show. Maddow is a member of our LGBTQ+ community, and this reporting is extremely important. In tonight's VP debate, Tim Walz will bring up Vance's positions on experience, on abortion, on LGBTQ+ rights, and more. But Maddow hauntingly asks, what do we do with this?
The thing that you need to do, step one in the process, is to totally replace, like rip out like a tumor, the current American leadership class.
Republicans, conservatives, we're still terrified of wielding power, of actually doing the job that the people sent us here to do.
Finally, you need a CEO, and a national CEO is what's called a dictator. It's the same thing.
We've got to get comfortable with wielding power.
There's no difference between a CEO and a dictator. If Americans want to change their government, they're going to have to get over their dictator phobia.
That was difficult to watch, to say the least. I believe Rachel Maddow deserves 19 raises for that, and I hope that this evidence and all of these clips and all of these clips that she's gotten from the media are shown on repeat so that we can go into tonight's VP presidential debate with the facts, because these videos are facts. They are not made up, and it's not propaganda. It's right in front of you. Read it, weep it, take it in, and vote correctly.
I can't wait for the night. I am excited. I want to see how it goes down. And you know, I don't know if you all saw the movie of his life or read the book, but really it is an inspiring story. And it's disgusting to me that you come from these humble beginnings. You know, he was a mountain person, right? No offense to mountain people, but, you know, living in poverty and, you know, dealing with a drug addict mother and all of that. So you struggle and achieve so much to become an absolute idiot. Right? Yes, exactly, an idiot. And a deplorable one. Because, you know, it's like when you think you see the story, I saw the movie and I was like, oh, wow, this is before I got to know him, really.
Right. And I feel like a lot of people are saying that exact statement that you keep saying. Well, I watched the movie and it doesn't seem that bad. Don't let the movie discredit the destruction of what's going on in front of us, you know, in the world. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think during the movie, he was a never Trump guy. Right?
Yeah, no, he was like likable.
Right,
You know,
he was
he was
likable.
likable in the movie.
Right, he had
Right.
LGBTQ friends at Yale.
Right.
He was
I have to
pro
admit,
things.
I liked Trump when he had his reality show.
I think a lot of people. I, think
I
a lot of
liked
people
him.
did. I
As a
think,
television
like,
character.
As a television
Yes,
character.
exactly.
As a television
Right.
character.
A caricature.
Caricature
Caricature of himself.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was a failed business person
Right.
that
Yeah.
took on a show about running businesses. So let's just say he was playing the role of
Playing the
You
role.
liked
yeah.
the personalities who added to
That's
the whole
right,
show,
exactly.
and he was just there. I can
Yeah,
promise you that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of code. I think that people need to be very aware of when, JD Vance uses the terms, of course, traditional American culture. I look across this table. I'm pretty sure that all of us have different American culture, and traditional, when they're referring to that, means white people. So the first thing is all of these things they want to institute are to favor the white nationalist community. So again, who have been linked to terrorism and trying to overthrow the government. Now we're linking this back to replacing everyone in government, another sign of anarchy. And let's not forget, which is highlighted in the story, is that JD Vance also has never really accomplished anything on his own, and he has been bought by Peter Thiel. He has not been just donated to. It was the most expensive Senate campaign in the history of the Senate for him to win that.
Wow.
And so again, and he's only been a senator for 2 years, and we were just faced with the criticism of if Biden, can't stay in office, what's going to happen? Oh, I don't know. A woman who has the most experience ever would have become the president. Now we're faced with if Trump wins, the least experienced person ever will become the president, who is also linked to all these crazy stories. What I'm most afraid of, and I watched this story last night, and I had read a little about it before, about some of the Project 2025 and some of these things that are linked to JD Vance.
Which is wild.
That our community, and not just our community, is that the electorate is not going to hear what Rachel Maddow says. They're just not going, and we can't talk about it enough. I think we should be sharing it.
Oh, yeah.
Sending it to your friend.
Right.
Because again, we all probably can sit here and say, we have friends and family who work in government. Are they there to be, as a political figure? No, that's their job. They go to work every day to do a job. And this buffoon is saying that all of these people need to be ripped out of government, who has never done anything in his life, run anything successful.
And I just have to say this, and I know you want to say something, but it comes to my mind when listening to you talk that there are people in this country that want to hold on to white supremacy so bad that they would vote for an absolute idiot, a third grader, because I've heard he's been the way he speaks, the way he articulates has been compared to like third grade level, and and so you would vote for someone like that over someone like Kamala that has so much experience. What kind of experience does Trump have? I mean, governmental.
He had zero when he became the president.
Exactly.
Yes.
But it's just really disgusting. I mean, and I was naive. When Obama won, I really said to myself, I think this country's getting past race. But little did I know that was the thing that brought all the racist folks out that were in their corners and really got them out. And And I'm like, damn it. Like, we have one president of color and people are losing their mind? Right. I just want to see Kamala win because she'll be the first woman. We need a woman, okay? We've had men all along. We need a woman in there and of color. That's going to be historic. Anyway, Vaughn, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I'm just rolling my eyes.
Oh. I love you. I love you for that.
Politics. Anti-LGBTQ plus activist DeAngelis acknowledges gay adult film past amid criticism. Corey DeAngelis, a prominent anti-LGBTQ plus extremist and school choice advocate, has come under fire after his past involvement in gay adult films resurfaced online. DeAngelis, who has been vocal against queer inclusion in education, acknowledged his controversial history in a recent post on Twitter, stating, quote, "As an activist for parental rights and school choice, my passion is personal. Just like everyone else, I have made mistakes throughout my life, learn from those mistakes, use that as an opportunity to grow, and try to channel that experience into something positive." Cue the violins. "I was a victim of poor decisions and poor influences," end quote. DeAngelis publicly acknowledged his involvement in gay-themed adult films in the past. The revelation of his past performances under the alias Seth Rose has sparked criticism, with many accusing him of hypocrisy given his current anti-LGBTQ plus stance. DeAngelis has disappeared from social media following the news, but has now resurfaced, defending his actions as part of his personal growth. After this news, DeAngelis' roles at the American Federation for Children and the Cato Institute remain in question, with the former placing him on leave and removing references to him from their website. DeAngelis has been a leading Fox News on-air contributor, suggesting the, quote, groomer argument against LGBTQ plus rights for schools, students, and parent choice. Well, he sounds like a real winner to me, but I love the call to action for the victim stance. Okay, so these decisions that I've made in my past, of course, listen, I've said it a million times, my past doesn't define me, this and that, but I also haven't then, captained for the same thing and tried to use it against other people if I've done it. So who are you? And also, do we have video of the film? Any? Have we seen any of them?
I'm just going to say it like this. Don't call me a faggot during the day or a freak and then come knocking on my window at night.
Well, especially when you have any involvement with the education in our schools.
Hypocrisy.
Yes.
Hypocrisy. And all these conservatives that walk around like, we're so conservative. Remember that couple here in the state?
Yeah.
I forgot.
For liberty. Yes.
Yes. And they got caught at a swingers club.
Oh, yeah, we reported that.
Yeah, so come on. And they walk around like they're so conservative and, they don't do anything, and then behind closed doors, there's all this stuff going on.
I'm like, who did he piss off to get the video released? I'm like, what did he say?
I want to see it.
Who released it? That's what I kind of
But doesn't that happen quite frequently? Years ago, I lived in Miami in a high-rise, and I had a neighbor who was a commissioner in politics. And every time he saw me with his wife and kids, he'd usher them in like I was the worst thing. But in the hallway, he'd give me the look.
Yeah.
It turns out he was into trans women and drugs, and he actually killed himself in the Miami Herald.
Oh, my God.
He was
I remember him.
So I watched the whole thing play out firsthand, and it's so sad that somebody just can't accept who you are and just be who you are, to have to go through all of that. And it made me sad.
Yeah.
And
I don't
this
know
is
why,
critical, but it makes me sad.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I don't know why they're so scared. We make up 1% of the world population, maybe 2%. What threat are we really, girl? Really, I mean,
a lot of self-loathing.
It's
a lot of self-loathing.
I was going to say, unfortunately, it has very, very little to do with you.
Yeah.
It's not you.
It has nothing to do with
I was
us.
gonna say.
But they use us. They use us.
Yeah.
The scare tactic of, look what this world will turn into, and our society is going to go to pots if we let these... Right.
Yeah. Not gonna
so,
happen. We're
People
too busy
need to
being
look inward.
fabulous.
I'm sorry, I'm getting ready to self-combust here.
Oh, it's okay.
I get very passionate.
Well, before you do that, let's clear up the worldview.
Yes.
More than half of LGBTQ people in the UK fear holding hands in public. A surprising new report from Stonewall reveals that over 56% of LGBTQ individuals in the UK avoid holding hands in public due to fears of prejudice and harassment. This alarming statistic is part of Stonewall's Hold My Hand campaign, aimed at highlighting the rising incidence of queer hate crimes and urging government action. The findings come in light of a government report indicating a staggering 112% increase in hate crimes based on sexual orientation in England and Wales over the last 5 years, with offenses against trans individuals rising by 186% during the same period. Among reported hate crimes, 56% were public order offenses, 41% involved violence, and 5% were categorized as criminal damage. Stonewall is calling for anti-LGBTQ hate crimes to be designated as aggravated offenses, ensuring protections akin to those for religion and race, as recommended by the Law Commission. So far, 584 individuals have contacted their local MPs as part of the campaign, emphasizing the need for immediate action. Stonewall encourages queer individuals to personalize their messages and share their experiences to enhance the impact. While Queer News Tonight has not seen similar surveys, we wonder if America's LGBTQ community is fearful to hold hands in public. I know when we all read this story, we all come in and out of the closet quite a bit when we have to. And there are a lot of places where you either don't feel safe or you're not treated like you're welcome.
Right.
So this story is not surprising. And when we have a media, backlash against the LGBTQ community that's coming from all of these, right-wing bloggers, is pushing, I'm not as worried about the people here at this table because we are grown and we've been able to navigate this world. I worry about the kids that are that are in high school, that are seeing these messages and fearing what their life may be like.
But I'll tell you, I have to admit this. I still get nervous when I go out into society. And I have had guys that have actually asked me out on a date. And I'm scared to go because not so much, I'm open, I'm myself, I'm who I am.
It could be like a scam or something.
Well, no, I'm scared for the guy because everything might be going well when we're in a restaurant, but then if someone acts out, how are they going to react to it? Are they strong enough to deal with being with someone like me in public and getting backlash? And so it's a reality. I mean, I feel really awkward when, and I say that in one breath, and in the next breath, I say, it would be nice to go out and not just have the guy come over and we're always inside. But I think I've been used to being the secret for so long that when a guy seems like he's open enough to say, you want to go to dinner or something, it doesn't happen a lot. But when it does happen, I start getting anxiety. Not for myself, because I go out in public and here I am, ta-da! But for the guy, because what if something goes down? Is he stable enough to handle it?
That's a good question.
So.
I mean, I think even at some public places, not too long ago, I mean, I don't even mind saying it, but Flanagan's is like a family burger kind of joint or something. My husband went in there without me one night. When people say people don't look gay and you kind of don't understand it, but you kind of do at the same time. Like my husband, I guess, kind of doesn't look gay or whatever that means. I guess I look gay. People tell me that.
He didn't borrow
but
any
he's
of your
just
clothes.
more masculine. I don't know.
That's what it is.
No crop top, sure. More masculine appearing. But he was sitting at the bar by himself, and these older white, hickey guys were drunk, I guess, and just started calling him a faggot. And it was out of nowhere. I mean, I wasn't even there with him. They just looked at him and thought, oh, that's a gay guy, and started going off on him. And no one at the Flanagan's in Davie did anything. Shame on you.
Yeah.
But the Broward County police officers escorted my husband to his truck, made all of those older guys stay in the restaurant so that he could leave and they couldn't see where he was going. So I applaud the police department.
Absolutely.
But it is very real. It's alive and well. We stay out on Wilton Drive. We go down to Miami Beach. We stay in these clubs till 3 a.m., and then you leave and you hit the streets. And maybe it's a 500 feet walk to your car, and maybe it's 2 blocks home. But you need to be more cautious. Everyone does.
Yes.
And whether you're straight, bi, gay, trans, not binary, blue, purple, I don't care. Just be safer. Just be more aware of your space. It's
isn't
scary.
it sad that same-sex marriages are legal?
Yes.
And you can't hold your spouse's hand.
I know.
It's just scary. It's just sometimes walking out of here, I wouldn't feel not that we're in a bad area right now at all, but I think in a block I would remove my hand.
Move your your hand.
And I hate that. I hate that.
Yeah, that is so true. That's so true. It's legal, but the straight folks say if we kiss one another or hold hands, that we're flaunting.
Yeah.
But if they do it in public, it's publicly acceptable. It's socially acceptable. Right. We do it. Oh, we're flaunting. We're putting it in their face. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely double standard.
Yeah.
And I know what you mean. A block away from the studio.
I'm not from South Florida, so it's almost like any business that I haven't entered yet. Mm-hmm. I kind of go back in the closet a little bit. There'd be a hoodie over this.
I hear you. Hey, what's up?
Let's queer up South Florida and Florida news. Fort Lauderdale's Jessica Norton risked her job so trans daughter could play girls' sports. When Jessica Norton became the team mom for her daughter's volleyball team, she never imagined it would jeopardize her job. However, her commitment to supporting her trans daughter thrust her into the center of a national controversy regarding transgender participation in sports. The Broward County School Board initiated disciplinary actions against both the school and Norton, alleging violations of Florida's Fairness in Women's Sports Act. She recalled the shock of discovering that her name was publicized during the investigation, despite being assured of confidentiality. While Norton was suspended for 10 days, she retains her long-term position with the school district. Her daughter, whose name was withheld for privacy, has since transferred to Florida Virtual School. The family has also filed a federal lawsuit challenging the state's ban on trans athletes, which Governor Ron DeSantis signed into law in 2021. Norton's attorney, Jason Starr, expressed concern over the nature of the investigation, saying, quote, "This investigation was placed on a track that's normally reserved for criminal conduct or very serious alleged violations of harm to students," end quote. Despite the turmoil, no students reported harm from her daughter's participation, and her teammates welcomed her, Norton said. Quote, "The only child that was harmed in this entire investigation was my own child," end quote. Norton has suggested she will continue her fight for her daughter. She said she initially misunderstood her child's identity. Now advocates for her daughter's rights and well-being, Norton said, quote, "I love Florida, but I shouldn't have to uproot my entire life because of the ridiculous politics," end quote. Ridiculous politics indeed. I mean, this has really been brewing up for the last couple of years, right? Since 2021 with the Women's Fairness Act. And why is there not a Men's Fairness Act in sport? That's like ultimate patriarchal stuff, right? It's really scary. If I did a little Google search, and in 2017, her daughter, which if you do a Google search, you can find out her daughter's name. So that's kind of scary for the daughter,
It comes
right?
up right away.
It comes up right away. She was at a school board meeting, and she was actually saying how happy she was to feel safe in a school where she was a transgender student and she could be herself and be like any other girl. That was just how many years ago? 7 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was 4 years before DeSantis signed.
Right.
Right.
So it's just the trans, rhetoric has just been stewing, and even Trump is like saying silly things like transgender insanity. He was saying that at a rally recently, and people are buying into it. They're buying into this.
He's using dumb words.
Issue.
Dumb words.
Dumb words.
Because he's got dumb people at these rallies, so he has to say dumb things that pair with not dumb things, so that they understand in their dumb brain.
And that's exactly
it's really that.
And that's what I mean about him using us, like the far right using our community, to target. And the sad thing is, the minute I start to get comfortable and think, this is great, I'm living my life, I will run into some idiot that reminds me that I can't let my guard down. Yeah. That we are a target.
For sure.
Oh yeah, we're under attack.
Yeah.
I mean, for me as a trans woman, just 7 years ago, I was going to the bars in Davie. I was going to different places with my girls. I'd go everywhere.
Yeah.
Now, and there were times where I had some, shit thrown my way, but I'm like, yeah, whatever. But now there are places that I know I'm not going to go to because I'm not
Places
stupid.
that you used to go to.
Places that I wouldn't even think.
Right.
My girls would be like, oh, let's go to this place. I'd be like, okay, let's go. I don't do that anymore. And I see a market difference.
Yeah.
Even dating, you referred to dating earlier. I would go out with guys and we'd hold hands and it would be okay, I felt at that time. Now, I don't know so much.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to date again to see.
I do think it's important to remind the viewers that, again, this Broward County School Board also contained 2 of the DeSantis appointees on the school board who have since been defeated. Thank you for voting.
Yes.
And how important school board elections are for the future of our community, because again, what we're teaching young people is really the voters we're going to get in the future.
Correct.
So this is an important story, of course, and it's terrible what this family went through, but I'm happy to see that our community came together to elect the right people to the Broward County School Board.
Oh my God, you bring up a great point. It's not just about who's at the top, the president. It's our local government.
Oh, yeah.
The commissioners, the mayors, all of those people are so important. And then,
Some
you
would
work
say
your way
more
up.
important for us directly, where we are.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I just think it's, in some respect, they've isolated this incident to show, like, look what they've done. See this to make their point, make it an example to really put it in the headlines. And as they said, it really wasn't as justified as
Wow. Well, I guess next we're gonna clear up business. Here is how Robby Starbuck is getting major brands to turn their back on LGBTQ diversity. Robby Starbuck has been targeting companies to abandon their diversity, equity, and inclusion DEI programs and distance themselves from the Human Rights Campaign and its Corporate Equality Index. And he is succeeding. His campaign has already influenced major brands like Harley-Davidson, Ford, and Caterpillar, Inc., which he labels as, quote, a massive win for the sanity, end quote. Starbuck claims to leverage threats of exposing, quote, woke policies, end quote, to compel companies to drop DEI initiatives, including eliminating woke trainings and political charge sponsorships. He boasts that corporate neutrality is now a trending goal among major corporations. Starbucks has recently gained notoriety for his anti-LGBTQ rhetoric, including accusing actress Megan Fox of child abuse for a photo of her son in a pink shirt. His documentary, The War on Children, which promotes right-wing conspiracies regarding the LGBTQ community, further fueled his visibility. Despite having fewer than 630,000 followers on Twitter, his anti-queer activism gained traction this year, pushing companies to forsake DEI programs, many of which are essential for fostering inclusive workplaces. Experts like Dr. M.K. Chin assert that companies' compliance with Starbucks demands often results from a lack of internal consensus on DEI initiatives. LGBTQ activists privately acknowledge the success that Starbucks is having. He represents a new advisory and attack to LGBTQ civil rights that has not yet been slowed. So, another one that's targeting.
Another one.
Yeah, another one that's targeting our community. And there was a quote he used, not neutral. Maybe you all will remember. I just read it, where he's trying to get like a neutral environment. I'm using the wrong
Neutrality.
word.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but neutrality. But it doesn't work in the world that we live in. Right. When you have people, people are born into their world, and this world is not equitable. It's not an equal opportunity world. It just isn't. Mm-hmm. And I think he's trying to make it like, oh yeah, we can just forget about, people's rights if we would just come together and work. But shit happens. And we need to have programs in place in case I'm at a job and like I did for 7 years and couldn't use the bathroom at my job for 4. I sat at my desk every day for 8 hours holding my urine because I am trans and I would offend the women if I went into the ladies' room. So, stuff like that. And, we've come a long way. Thank God we have some rights, but I wouldn't put it past it backsliding. We can't get comfortable. We really can't.
No, we can't become complacent. And I think that's what started happening when all of these rights started happening for us. I think a lot of us became complacent.
Maybe.
We can never do that again. I
don't know. I would never put the blame on the trans community for becoming complacent with, your rights being taken away. To me, this douchebag just sounds like he is someone who's throwing distractions at us, who is going to later on try and eliminate every human being that he possibly can, like Project 2025. So, to me, I don't see any good equality, anything like what I adore you. I don't see anything like you just said with him. For me, he just sounds like a monster.
Yeah. I hear you.
Yeah, I don't see.
Well, he's using that as an excuse. Yeah, he's a monster. I don't see, but that was the phrase. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think we need to rally allies in this, because the reason he's having success is because the haters against our community are lining up behind him vocal. And the LGBTQ community, who is a smaller portion of the population, we need allies to say, we're not happy that Ford is ending DEI programs.
Yes.
And for instance, it's Hispanic Heritage Month. My company is celebrating it, celebrating on every news channel.
Yes.
I don't hear them coming out and saying, let's end Hispanic Heritage Month because they need Hispanic voters, or let's end Asian American, Heritage Month. It's just Pride Month, LGBTQ people, trans people. It is just aimed at our community. It's not DEI efforts in general. It's just, it's not, celebrating Americans with disabilities. Right. We have, those are all DEI efforts that didn't exist before. So let's be real. It's just against us. And we need our allies because, again, they're going to come for us. You're going to be next about something that you believe in. It could be your religion. It could be something else. Yeah. We need allies to support us.
The phrase I was referring to was corporate neutrality.
Yes. Yeah.
Corporate neutrality. He was using that. He's using that to just be a monster, but that's what he's, using. Yeah,
he's using an old school tactic that has maybe worked in the past in other workplaces to try and attack a certain group of people. In now 2024. And he's, whatever.
And I like what you had also said about LGBTQ as a whole, coming together and not being complacent and moving things forward. And our allies are such an important part. I know I have allies in my life that have been amazing.
More using
and they
platforms.
do. And they do. So we have to make sure that we get our allies up front and center, and that you represent me and I represent you, and vice versa. We're all in this together. We need to make a stand together.
Girl, and you know what? We have to yell that to the mountaintops.
Yeah.
Because even within our own LGBTQ community, some groups think, well, we got our rights.
Right.
This isn't really affecting us. You trans people, y'all are on your own. I go out into Wilton Manors. I get it from, some of the gay men in the community.
I do too.
This attitude, like, what are you doing here?
I do too.
And but thank God we have a lot of gay men in our community and lesbian women that do support us. They do. But I've been feeling it, like the temperature has changed
never
a
let
little.
them catch me out with you, honey. I'll go off, please.
Oh yeah,
please.
Yeah, and I'm pulling my earrings.
I got you.
Oh yes, baby. I knew I loved you. I knew I loved you.
All right. Next, let's queer social justice. How HIV/AIDS got its name with the origins of the stigma and religious language. On September 24th, 1982, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention officially named the condition AIDS, Acquired Immunodeficiency Syndrome. Over a year after the initial cases emerged, early discussions around AIDS were rife with confusion about its causes and transmission, significantly influencing societal perceptions and stigma surrounding the disease. The term AIDS was pivotal in how societal viewed the epidemic. While conservative Christian figures like Reverend Jerry Falwell branded it as, quote, God's punishment for sexual immorality, activists pushed for terminology that emphasized humanity. They advocated for, quote, people living with HIV, end quote, rather than AIDS victims, highlighting their dignity and existence beyond illness. Historian Jennifer Breer notes that the disease's early association with the LGBTQ community was crucial, although scientists later established that HIV circulated among various groups before 1981. Early media labeled it as, quote, gay cancer, or, quote, gay pneumonia, end quote. The CDC's adoption of the term AIDS aimed to encompass all affected groups, including heterosexuals. But the stigma against the LGBTQ community lingered. During the 1980s, the Christian right viewed AIDS through a moral lens, equating with a decline of societal values. This perception often dominated public health discussions, impacting policy. President Reagan's administration faced tension between conservative advisors advocating abstinence and Surgeon General C. Everett Koop, who promoted comprehensive sex education and prevention strategies. Many queer and feminist religions leaders emerged, actively working to dismantle stigma and advocating for justice among marginalized populations. Today, AIDS is viewed through a broader lens, with a better understanding of its scientific aspect and social implications. I have a lot of comments, so let me get my glasses. I'm ready to read. LGBTQ still remains the highest stigmatized, against HIV and AIDS. And obviously we talk more about HIV today than we do AIDS, because back in the 80s, AIDS diagnosis, even back then, if people are living today and they were diagnosed with AIDS, today they still have that label, even if they're undetectable.
Yeah.
So even though they were labeled an AIDS patient at one point, they are still labeled that today. But do they get the benefits of the people that went on disability that were diagnosed with AIDS? No, they do not, because they can be undetectable. So laws need to change and reflect to that. Also, another term that was also coined, which I went and researched the story, was GRID. I don't know if some of you are familiar with GRID, which is called Gay-Related Immune Deficiency. And that was coined before AIDS was used. So, obviously there's a lot of stigma surrounding the LGBTQ community, but the epicenter of the AIDS epidemic by the 90s was the sub-Saharan Africa.
Yeah.
Yes, not New York, not San Francisco,
and they
not the United States.
A lot of them were straight people getting
exactly.
it. Yeah.
So.
But for whatever reason, I guess our community got hit hard here in America. So it was the gay disease. Right. I remember sitting at the table. I was in high school, eating dinner. My father had the evening news on. It was either Walter Cronkite or Peter Jennings. And it came up, the story came up, and I almost choked because they were talking about this mysterious disease that was affecting gay men. And by then I knew that I was gay. I hadn't connected that I was trans yet, but I knew I was gay. And by the morning time, I had every freaking symptom. It's crazy what we can do to ourselves because, but it was labeled that for the longest. And I remember going to funerals. The families would dare not put HIV/AIDS. You died of cancer. Yes. You died of something else. It was so stigmatized. I remember going to see my friend Ronald Eric Allen in the hospital, and it was like 1987, and they had them like quarantined, and like just the attitudes of the nurses, because at that time people didn't know. We really didn't have much information on it. So the healthcare people were scared. Right. And you could feel the energy. It was almost like they were leopards, Right. And we've come a long way, thank God.
Thank God.
But yeah, our community took a big hit. And I'm going to dare to say this. I think two people changed that. When Magic Johnson got announced that he was HIV positive, I think it was a reality check for for straight America. You have this macho basketball player coming out and saying, I have AIDS, I'm HIV positive. That was a big eye opener because for a long time, straight people was like, oh, that has nothing to do with me.
There are still straight people today who don't.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I don't get, that's a gay disease. I can't get that.
Yeah.
And the other one, I got to mention him, Ryan White, because people, they can have compassion for children. And I think a lot of the country, they overlooked their biases and they just had compassion for this little boy that was dying from it.
Right.
So I think those two really were like game changers. Yeah.
And I think it's interesting you had mentioned Africa. When AIDS or HIV first came out, I was here, but then I moved back to Zimbabwe to live with my dad. This was early 80s. And it was interesting to see how the stigma here translated to Africa.
Wow.
It was, again, thought of as taboo, a gay thing, but it was affecting straight communities, women and children, particularly in Africa at that time. It was an interesting process to go through, coming from here, going there, and then coming back again and seeing how things were so different in two different countries.
Yeah.
You know? But the one thing that was the same, there was no empathy. People were dying.
Right.
Yeah.
People were sick. And even today, there's really not
You
much
know why?
There's not much empathy.
You know why there's not much empathy, and especially back then? Because it hit our community.
Right.
And they didn't care. That was the reality of it. Oh, those gay folks, it's their punishment. That's what they deserve.
Oh, they did it to themselves.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah,
They don't,
yeah.
They don't
I mean,
understand.
I think even some of the hate aimed at Dr. Fauci was after COVID was really around, they kept lauding him for being this leader for, the HIV and AIDS research. And a lot of that, again, aligned him with our community.
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting. I did just rewatch for I think the third time, because I think it's so good, is the Rock Hudson documentary.
Yeah.
And, it's so interesting to hear, like, even, we think of Hollywood as being so liberal, that when he, was in a, kissing scene with Linda Evans, that she said people didn't want to film with her in Hollywood. So, I mean, but, we've come a long way, but I agree. There is still a lot of ignorance, a lot of ignorance.
And when we look at I've reported this before, we look at a worldwide population, more than 50% of the people living with HIV are women.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
Yeah.
Do your research.
yes.
Get ready to discover the iconic Panama Canal hub and spoke LANDcruise. Discover the wonder of the iconic Panama Canal with the nonprofit Hotspots Happening Out Travel Club. Journey to the jungles of Panama and experience an iconic small ship cruise on the Panama Canal. You enjoy sailing through the locks on the canal that is from the Atlantic to the Pacific. Your week features day trips including cosmopolitan Panama City, the jungles of Gamboa, and so much more. Book the trip today at happeningout.travel, supporting our non-profit mission for the LGBTQ+ community.
Next, we are proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out television studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral Sunday International Service at 10:30 a.m.
We finish tonight's Queer News headlines with a segment we call LGBTQ+, 1 Minute News.
LGBTQ+, 1 Minute News. Let's queer up gay culture. Gay Christmas begins. LGBTQ+ celebrates Halloween with Zest. It's October 1st, and Christmas is not a day, it's an entire month. And I want to say 2 months. And it's not in December. Halloween holds special importance for the LGBTQ community. It's a time of self-expression, joy, and freedom, where creativity flourishes. Across the country, various queer events are scheduled, setting the tone for the festive season, which sets for the perfect tone for the gay Christmas. Different events are held across the country every year. This year, the community can enjoy Queer and Spooky, a gay Ridge Halloween party on October 25th at Sunset Stoop in Brooklyn. That same day, the Halloween party for LGBTQ+ youth will light up Sherman Oaks, California, while Pure After Dark heats up club play in Tampa from October 18th to the 20th. Gals weekend. I'm going to say ghouls, gals, guys. Yeah, Halloween edition will be celebrated in South Florida and Eden, Tampa. Queer Halloween party will be held on October 26th, and Mad Chiller, among other events. West Hollywood is iconic, as is the New York City Halloween Parade in the Village. Finally, the grand culmination will be Wicked Manners. A Wilton Drive closes on October 31st for tens of thousands to be welcomed to America's greatest LGBTQ+ Halloween party. For the LGBTQ+ community, Halloween is more than costumes and candy. It's a celebration of identity and inclusion. Let us know if you know of any other queer Halloween event that we must attend. So, I'm ready. Can you tell? No.
I always have to plug our local Holly Weird in downtown Hollywood, where we are as queer as we want to be in Hollywood. Would you say, Francesca?
The queerest.
So come out,
Holly Weird.
Come to downtown Hollywood. You can be as weird as you want.
Yes.
For sure.
And a few days before Halloween, come the Spooktacular at Hunters on the 26th.
We're here for it.
I'll just say I have been going to Wicked Manners for like a number of years. And about a few years ago, I went out and I didn't feel like dressing up. I went like myself. So a family's walking by me and the woman's like, "Oh my God, I love your costume." And I'm thinking, honey, this is me every day. So I'll probably be out there partying because it's such a wonderful party. But I don't know if I'm going to dress up. I might go like me again.
And don't forget to go to savelgbt.com or save.lgbt because they have their fabulous event in Wynwood on October 26th.
Oh, wow.
With Latrice Royale.
Latrice!
There we go.
That's going to be a really great event. All right, LGBTQ 1 Minute News. Let's queer up entertainment. Andrew Garfield praises intimate scene in Guadagnino's queer. Queer. It's just queer. Andrew Garfield has revealed his admiration for a particularly intimate scene in Luca Guadagnino's upcoming film, Queer. In a recent interview with The Hollywood Reporter, the Oscar-nominated actor spoke about queer stars Daniel Craig and Drew Starkey. He said, quote, He's only shown me one blowjob scene, which I thought was so genuinely beautiful. Like it was such a beautiful love scene between Daniel and Drew, and it's just so tender and full of longing, end quote. That sounds like fun. You heard Spider-Man, right? Garfield's excitement for Queer adds to the anticipation surrounding the film, which explores themes of queer love and desire in 1940s Mexico. Wow.
You know, blowjobs are beautiful, especially after the gym. Always great. There we go.
Oh my God.
Holy blowjob, Batman.
Holy
Can't wait to
blowjob,
see it.
Batman.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up politics. California Senator Scott Wiener is a leather daddy at Folsom Street Fair. California Senator Scott Wiener has been a champion for LGBTQ plus rights, healthcare, and climate action since 2016. He is also quite the leather daddy. At least that's what his attendance at San Francisco's Folsom Street Fair suggests. He recently posted a shirtless picture from the fair with a black tie captioning it, quote, going all senatorial at Folsom, quote. The annual event celebrates leather, kink, and alternative sex practices, inviting people to, quote, come in all your gear or none at all, quote. Many conservatives expressed disapproval of Wiener's appearance, but the queer community, of course, loved it. I've never been to Folsom, but I do know that it is not rated PG. So, hey, go let your hair down. I mean, it's not bothering me whatsoever. Of course, I understand why conservatives don't like it. They don't like anything. But hey, go live your life.
Did you say wiener?
I said wiener like 3 times.
Blowjob, wiener.
Blowjob, wiener.
Never ending.
I'm thinking about becoming a dominatrix. I think, you know,
Or you could be a dominatrix for Halloween and then go into your new career.
That's a good idea. Love it. Love it. You're brilliant. LGBTQ 1 minute news. Let's queer up lesbian culture. Ellen's Netflix special faces backlash from ex-staff. Former employees of the Ellen DeGeneres show have voiced strong criticism of the comedian's latest Netflix stand-up special, calling it a, quote, case study in evasion, end quote. Despite DeGeneres' claims of being kicked out of Hollywood, one of the former staff members said, quote, she made millions of dollars doing a Netflix special talking about how she got canceled. But by nature of making millions of dollars to do a Netflix special, you were not silenced. You were not kicked out of Hollywood. Most people can't get a Netflix special, end quote. Staffers also took issue with Ellen's attempt to portray herself as a victim. So, okay, I used to like Ellen. I really did. Remember when she had her sitcom and she came out as gay, and then there was some backlash for a while, and she was kind of like kicked out of Hollywood, or like I got blackballed a little bit. Then she got her talk show, and like through the years, I wasn't a regular viewer, but through the years I would click on it, and she really like featured a lot of people, and she treated people good. But I noticed like towards the end of the show, when her show was ending, all this stuff comes out. Maybe she was started to smell herself too much. Like, how people get high on the hog, and then they start,
I always say that if there's more than 5 people saying something about someone, there's probably truth to it. So I just kind of,
Ellen must have really bad people around her, because this story and everything about the story just is awful. So you know what?
It's not great. Yeah,
cancel her.
Yeah.
My mom says where there's where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah,
that's what my mom always says.
Okay.
Yeah.
LGBTQ 1 minute news. Let's queer up Latino culture. Bad Bunny, a queer icon in Latin music. On the occasion of the ongoing Hispanic Heritage Month, Queer News Tonight shines a spotlight on a Puerto Rican rapper and singer, Bad Bunny. He is a beloved queer-adjacent artist. His Grammy-nominated Un Verano Sin Ti broke records, while his gender-bending fashion and queer-affirming actions, like his kiss during MTV Video Music Awards, defy toxic machismo. Ooh. From his Titi Me Pregunto to his on-screen kisses in Cassandro, Bad Bunny supports LGBTQ while staying true to his Puerto Rican roots. His activism against corruption and support for Latinx artists, such as reggaeton pioneer Ivy Queen, solidify his place as an influential cultural figure. I love Bad Bunny, so I'm so happy that I have this story, and Besos Bad Bunny.
I've been talking too much this show, so I'm just going to say...
I love Bad Bunny. I love that people like Prince and rock bands like Kiss and Aerosmith and those 80s hardcore everyones who would give us that gender bender fashion ran so that people like Bad Bunny could walk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Bad Bunny, llámame.
Oh, girl. Wait a minute. Now, it's going to be a girl fight.
All right. So that is today's news for the queer community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ evening news show.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Join the conversation on your favorite streaming platform.
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these type of LGBTQ stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, Eric Restivo, and on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Jeff Oliverio, Franchesca D'Amore, Rajee Narinesingh, and Von Biggs, we will see you daily at 8 p.m. We remind you, the VP presidential election, the VP presidential debate is tonight, but the election is just 34 days away. Stand up for equality, rights, and representation. Make sure you're registered and ready to cast your ballot. Let's make history. Let's vote for a better future.